Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavridda Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 5, Verse 21. Karma vadatam etatte gayanti swastriyo muhu kirtam parama punyam cha kirta ishyati bhuryam. Translation: all the blessed women in the heavenly planets will continuously chant about your spotless character at every moment, and the people of this world will also chant your glories continuously. This is Durvas Muni glorifying Ambarish Maharaj. Since there is no purport, we'll move to the next verse. Verse 22, translation. Srila Sukadeva Goswami continued, thus being satisfied in all respects, the great mystic yogi Durvasa took permission and left, continuously glorifying the king. Through the skyways, he went to Brahmaloka, which is devoid of agnostics and dry philosophical speculators. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Although Durvas Muni went back to Brahmaloka through the spaceways, he did not need an airplane. For great mystic yogis can transport themselves from any planet to any other without any machine. There is a planet named Siddhaloka whose inhabitants can go to any other planet because they naturally have all the perfection of yoga practice. Thus, Durvas Muni, the great mystic yogi, could go through the skyways to any planet, even to Brahmaloka. In Brahmaloka, everyone is self-realized, and thus there is no need of philosophical speculation to come to the conclusion of the absolute truth. Durvas Muni's purpose in going to Brahmaloka was apparently to speak to the residents of Brahmaloka about how powerful a devotee is and how a devotee can surpass every living entity within this material world. The so-called Gyanis and Yogis cannot compare to a devotee. So Hare Krishna and good morning everyone. I seek the blessings of all the assembled devotees, especially Adipurush Prabhu, Arjun Prabhu, so that I can speak something in line with Guru Parampara and something that can be nourishing to all of you spiritually. In this purport, Srila Prabhupada ends by saying that so-called Gyanis and Yogis cannot compare to a devotee. What to speak of the topmost devotee about whom we will discuss today. Today, as you all know, is a very auspicious day. It is the appearance day of Srila Gadadhar Pandit, who is none other than Srimati Radharani in Vrajlila. So let's begin to hear the wonderful pastimes of Gaura Gadadhar from Gaur Leela. So before we go into the pastimes of Srila Gadadhar Pandit, we will first explore some philosophy of the different tattvas that Panchatattva represent. We will also look into how a journey of a devotee is facilitated by the various aspects of Panchatattva. We will then zoom into Gadadhar Pandit's childhood pastimes, his pastime of meeting his guru, Pundarik Vidyanidhi, and his deep absorption in deity worship of his Tota Gopinath deities. In essence, Gadadhar Pandit was known for three main things: his love and care for Gauranga Mahaprabhu, his love for reading scriptures, especially Srimad Bhagavatam, and his love for his beloved deity, Tota Gopinath, which interestingly is the only deity of Krishna which is not standing, but is in sitting form even to this day. Finally, I want to touch upon the topic of how Gadadhar Pandit was tested and how he passed that test. So with your blessings, I will proceed. So I want to start off by reciting the Panchitatva Pranam mantra. So Krishna appeared as 5 features, which is what this verse talks about. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namame Bhakta Shaktikam. So this verse, as I mentioned, talks about the 5 features, how Krishna appeared. So as Srila Narottam Das Thakur also says, Brajendra Nandana Jay, Sachi Sutta Hoilo Se, Balram Hoilo Nitai. So Krishna is Brajendra Nandana, the son of Nanda Maharaj. The same person appeared as the son of Sachi Mata. So Bhakta Rupa. So Bhakta Rupa is Lord Chaitanya, who is Krishna in Brajalila. Bhakta Swarupa is Lord Nityananda, who is Balram in Brajalila. The next is Bhakta Avatar. Bhakta Avatar is the incarnation of the Lord Mahavishnu, who appeared as Advaitacharya. And Bhakta Shakti, which is what we'll discuss today, is the manifestation of the internal potency or the pleasure potency or the Ladini Shakti, and that is none other than Gadadhar Pandit. And finally, Bhakta Akyam is the pure devotee of the Lord, Narad Muni, who is Srivas in Gaur Leela. So the translation of the Panchatattva Pranam mantra is, let me offer my obeisances unto Lord Sri Krishna, who has manifested himself in 5 as a devotee, that is Lord Chaitanya, expansion of a devotee, Lord Nityananda, incarnation of a devotee, Advaitacharya, pure devotee, Srivas Pandit, and devotional energy, which is Gadadhar Pandit. So interestingly, each of these tattvas teaches us an important aspect of our devotional life. Advaitacharya exemplifies Vaishnava etiquette through prayers. As we know, it was due to his prayers that the Lord appeared. Srivas Thakur exemplifies Vaishnava Seva. Gadadhar Pandit exemplifies Bhagavat Shravan, as he was extremely attached to reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and also to deity worship. We will discuss these 2 aspects in detail today, that is Bhagavat Shravan and deity worship. And Lord Nityananda exemplifies outreach. And finally, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches us the most important thing, which is the chanting of the holy names or Nam Kirtan. So even in the journey of a devotee, on our individual journeys, we are all here because some devotee initially prayed for us. They represent the mood of Advaitacharya. Someone has prayed for us saying that, I wish this person becomes a devotee. I'll give you a simple classical example. Let's say a materialist, a materially famous person enters the temple. We naturally pray, I wish this person becomes a devotee. So Gadadhar Pandit and Advaitacharya both have the combined mood of praying that someone must become a devotee. Nimai at that time was the best scholar. So naturally they prayed, I wish Nimai becomes a devotee. So after someone prays for us, someone has to get into our lives and give us the initial contact with Krishna consciousness. That person represents the expansion of Lord Nityananda. He or she knocks on our door to say what Krishna consciousness is and how it will benefit us in the ultimate sense. As we progress in our journey, we need someone to give us some service. And these persons who give us service are expansions of Srivas Thakur. Finally, when we are doing service, we still need someone to hold our hand and make sure that we are on the right path and that we are also going scripturally deep. That person or persons are expansions of Gadadhar Pandit. When these 4 tattvas come together, we develop love for Gauranga. So last week, I was talking to Yashoda Dulal Prabhu, and he was telling me how much he relishes Gaur Lila. And he sees Gaur Lila in all other pastimes of the Lord. This made me wonder, what is so special about Gaur Lila? In this regard, I found three unique aspects of Gaur Lila that don't exist in any other Lila. The first aspect is Gaur Lila is Bhajan Lila. No other incarnation of the Lord performs bhajans. For example, let's take Narsimha Lila. So Narsimhadev does not come out of the pillar and start performing bhajans. Even in Ram Lila, the Lord does not perform bhajans. But in this particular incarnation, the Supreme Lord performs bhajans and kirtans. How special is that? The next unique aspect of Gaur Lila is that it is Udbodak Lila. What is Udbodak? Bodak is realization and Ud is up. So it is the only Leela that increases the inner realization of Krishna's Vrajalila. I'll repeat. It is the only Leela that increases our inner realization of Krishna's Vrajalila. What does this mean? If you hear Sitaram Leela, your love for Radha Krishna will not increase. Gaur Leela is the only Leela where your love for Radha Krishna continues to increase. The more we dive into Gaur Leela, the more our taste for hearing Krishna Leela increases. It is mentioned by Jiva Goswami that without approaching Radha and Krishna through Gaur Leela, we will be baffled in our attempts. Now, does this mean that we cannot approach Radha Krishna directly? No, this does not mean that. It just means that it becomes way more difficult to approach Radha Krishna Leela directly. We can understand and have deeper realizations if we approach Radha Krishna Leela through the lens of Gaur Leela. And finally, Gaur Leela is Parishist Leela. What does the word Parishist mean? So the word Parishist translates to appendix, as in appendix of a book. Now, is appendix part of a book? You can say appendix is, yes, it's part of a book, and you can say, oh, it's not part of a book. So the answer is yes and no. Yes, it is part of a book in terms of structure of the book, but it is not part of the book in terms of content. So, but the appendix, interestingly, helps us understand the important details of the book. Similarly, Gaur Leela is part of Krishna Leela as it helps us understand Krishna Leela better with important details of the pastimes. Now, what does this mean? So, who can tell Krishna's pastimes better than the Sakis and Manjaris who witnessed those pastimes? Now, who are these Sakis and Manjaris? These Sakis and Manjaris in Krishna Leela are actually the Goswamis in Gaur Leela. They help us understand Gaur Leela, and through understanding that, we can understand Krishna Leela better. For example, you can take Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who is actually Kasturi Manjari, and through his Chaitanya Charitamrita, we are understanding Gaur Leela, and through the lens of Gaur Leela, we can understand Krishna Leela better. So now let's talk about the importance of Gaur Gadadhar Leela, which is what we'll discuss today. Bhakti Vinod Thakur sings, Smara Gaura Gadadhara Kelikalam Bhava Gaura Gadadhara Pakshacharam Shrinu Gaura Gadadhara Charukatam Bhaja Godrumakanana Kunjavidum Smara Gaura Gadadhara Kelikalam. What does that mean? Remember the wonderful pastimes of Gaura Gadadhar. Bhava Gaura Gadadhara Pakshacharam. Become a servant of Gaura and Gadadhar. Shrunu Gaura Gadadhara Charukatam. Listen to the beautiful narrations concerning Gaura and Gadadhar. Bhaja Godrumakanana Kunjavidum. And worship Lord Gaura, the beautiful moon of the groves of Godruma. So if you go to Mayapur today, you will find Gaur Gadadhar deities in all the Gaudiya maths. In fact, when I went to Yoga Feet for the first time, Yoga Feet, for those of you who don't know, is the birthplace of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. I thought that the deities that I saw were Gaur Nitai deities, but they were actually Gaur Gadadhar deities. I have put pictures of Gaur Gadadhar deities from Yoga Feet, Godruma, and Champahati in this particular slide for your pleasure. So then the immediate question comes, should we worship Gaur Gadadhar or Gaur Nitai? Interestingly, Srila Prabhupada comes from the background of Gaudiya Math. In Gaudiya Math, rarely do we see Gaur Nitai deities. In most Gaudiya Maths, even today, you will find Gaur Gadadhar deities, or you'll find Radha Krishna deities and Gauranga Mahaprabhu, as we have in our Bhakti Center or even in GEV. So why did our dear Srila Prabhupada choose to install Gaur Nitai deities in most of the temples in the West? There are three reasons. The first and foremost reason is that the worship of Gaur Gadadhar is in Madhurya Ras and is not for us Kanishtadhikaris on the beginning stages of devotional service, where one strives to follow the principles and avoid offenses. Rather, worshipping Gaur Gadadhar is for advanced devotees who are already in the Nishtha or the steady stage of Krishna consciousness, or they're almost getting to the stage of Ruchi or genuine taste. The second reason is that one needs to get the permission of Lord Nityananda in order to enter into the Panchitatva pastimes and beyond. So we start with Gaur Nitai, and once we get their permission, we go to Panchatattva, where we have access to Gaur Gadadhar and Radha Krishna and beyond. And finally, Srila Prabhupada is such a genius that he made us understand that without Gaur Nitai's mercy, we make little or no progress towards understanding Gaur Gadadhar Leela, what to speak of Radha Krishna Leela. So I would like to mention a couple of scriptural references where Sri Gadadhar Pandit in Gaur Leela is established as Srimati Radharani in Braj Leela. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, first chapter, 41st verse, it says, Gadadhara Panditadi Prabhura Nija Shakti Tansa Bara Charane Mora Sahasra Pranati. The translation, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the internal potencies of the Lord, of whom Sri Gadadhar Pandit is the foremost. Also, in Gaura Ganadesha Deepika, it is mentioned, and this is by Kavi Karnapur, it is mentioned, the incarnation of love, who previously was the queen of Vrindavan Radha, is now the beloved of Gaura, named Srila Gadadhar Pandit. Another name of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Gadadhara Prananatha, the life and soul of Gadadhar Pandit. No one can say how merciful the Lord is to Gadadhar Pandit, but people know the Lord as Gadaira Gaura, Lord Gauranga of Gadadhar Pandit. This is how intimate they were. So now let's zoom in to the past times after having this particular background. So let's start looking at the childhood pastimes of Gadadhar Pandit. So Gadadhar Pandit's father's name was Sri Madhav Mishra, and his mother's name was Sri Ratnavati Devi. Gadadhar was a constant companion of Mahaprabhu from the time of their childhood. They lived very near the house of Sri Jagannath Mishra in Mayapur. So Ratnavati Devi thought of Sachi Devi as her own sister and always used to visit her. They were the best of friends. During their childhood, Gaurahari, known as Nimai at that time, and Gadadhar would play together, sometimes at Mahaprabhu's house and sometimes at Gadadhar's house. They both studied together at the same school and were students of Gangadas Pandit. Gadadhar was 1 year younger than Nimai. Nimai couldn't remain without Gadadhar even for a moment. And Gadadhar likewise couldn't stand to be separated from Nimai. But Nimai and Gadadhar, interestingly, were of completely opposite natures. Gadadhar Pandit, from his childhood, was very sober, quiet, and peaceful. He liked to be in solitary places, and he was always very renounced. Nimai, on the other hand, was naughty, was flamboyant, was quarrelsome. He would invite everyone to have a debate in logic or Nyaya Shastra. He could argue both ways, it is said. He could prove to someone that day is night and night is day, and after he defeated everyone, he would refute his own argument and again amaze everyone. One day, Gadadhar Pandit complained to Nimai, "Why are you wasting your time with all these unnecessary debates? Isn't serving the lotus feet of the Lord our ultimate goal?" Chaitanya Mahaprabhu smiled and replied, "Gadadhar, just you wait. One day I will be such an amazing devotee that even Brahma and Lord Shiva will worship me." This is how Mahaprabhu predicted, and you can say, revealed his identity for the first time. We will see soon how this prediction came true. The prediction of how Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva will one day indeed worship Lord Gauranga. As we know, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, upon going to Gaya, first began to manifest Krishna Prema. There, he enacted the pastime of accepting the shelter of Srila Ishwara Puri. After returning to his home, he began to exhibit a new life. Once, while Gadadhar was plucking flowers at the home of Srivas Pandit, Srivas came running to Gadadhar, beaming with joy. Gadadhar asked, "What makes you so happy, Srivas?" Srivas said, Nimai, Nimai has returned from Gaya just yesterday. It is unbelievable that the cheeky and arrogant boy has changed so completely. He has turned into a compassionate, humble, and meek devotee. He continuously sheds tears and cries out loudly, "Krishna, Krishna." He does not even look like a normal human being anymore, rather like someone from another realm. Srivas Pandit continued, "Our desire seems to be on the verge of fulfillment, our desire that he becomes a devotee. He has called all of us today to congregate at the house of Shuklambar Brahmachari. I am going there. Would you like to come? Perhaps he will share the reasons of his new transformation with us." Gadadhar immediately responded, "Even though I'm not invited, I will also go. I also want to know the reason behind this incredible change in Nimai." So he went, Gadadhar Pandit went, but hid himself from the rest as he was not invited to the secret congregation scheduled to take place in Shuklambar's courtyard. The beautiful golden and effulgent Nimai stood in the middle of the courtyard. Losing control of himself, he burst into tears and cried loudly, "Where is my Lord Shri Krishna? Where is my Lord Shri Krishna? He was here just now. Where has he disappeared? Where has he hidden himself from me now?" The heart-wrenching tears and his crying stunned everyone present. Nimai then suddenly fell down unconscious with a great crash. When Nimai when he regained consciousness, he could hear someone crying very loudly. That sound seemed to be coming from inside the house. He went into the house and asked Shuklambar, who was it that was crying? Shuklambar immediately told him, "It is your Gadadhar." From his very childhood, Gadadhar had followed behind Nimai as if he were his shadow. Gadadhar was quite detached from this world. His only object of attachment was Nimai. Nimai called Gadadhar and told him, "My dear Gadadhar, since your early childhood, you have always been devoted to Lord Krishna. but I have simply wasted my life in false pursuits and achieved nothing so far. Through this pastime, the Lord is teaching us an important lesson of not wasting our time in false pursuits as they achieve nothing in the ultimate sense. Another sweet pastime is the meeting of Gadadhar Pandit with Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Srila Gadadhar Pandit was very affectionate towards his friend Mukunda Datta. Whenever any Vaishnava saint came to Navadvip, Mukunda would inform Gadadhar, and they both would go and have darshan of that great soul. One time, Pundarik Vidyanidhi came from Chattagram to Navadvip, and Mukunda invited Gadadhar to come along and let's go meet him. Gadadhar was very excited to meet an exalted Vaishnava, and the two of them happily set out together to have darshan of this famous Pundarik Vidyanidhi. However, Gadadhar was not prepared for the sight that met his eyes. He saw that Pundarik Vidyanidhi was dressed in fine silk. His lips were red with the juice of betel leaf, and he was reclining on a fine couch, resting against velvet cushions, as you see in the picture here. His servants were fanning him and spraying scented oil all around the room. Gadadhar Pandit was not at all impressed. He was thinking, what is happening here? How could this apparently sensual person be called a great Vaishnava? He thought. He was disappointed and wanted to leave immediately. How can a Vaishnava look and act as if he's so addicted to sense enjoyment? He thought. And he lost whatever reverence he had previously felt, even though he had not yet spoken to Pundarik Vidyanidhi. However, Mukunda knew the real character of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, and he could also sense the doubts in the mind of Gadadhar Pandit. He immediately recited some shlokas from Srimad Bhagavatam in a very, very sweet voice. When Pundarik Vidyanidhi heard this beautiful recitation of this particular sloka, Aho Bhakyam Stanakalakutam, this is the verse where Putana was delivered. As soon as Pundarik Vidyanidhi heard that verse, he went into a fit of ecstasy and began to cry while calling loudly, Krishna, Krishna, and he rolled about on the bed, his clothes falling in disarray. Soon he fainted on the floor. Gadadhar now felt very sad in his mind. He thought to himself, what have I done? Because I've ignorantly considered this highly advanced soul to be an ordinary materialist? What an offense I've committed. In order that I might be saved from the reaction of this offense, I think the only solution is to accept initiation from him. Gadadhar Pandit submitted his proposal to Mukunda, who then presented it to Pundarik Vidyanidhi with a full account of Gadadhar Pandit's high qualifications. Hearing this proposal, Pundarik Vidyanidhi became very happy. He started saying, Providence has bestowed upon me a great jewel today. Certainly I will accept him as my disciple. You shouldn't have any doubt about that. It is the result of many lifetimes of good fortune that one gets a disciple like Gadadhar Pandit. So on an auspicious day, Gadadhar Pandit received the divine mantra from his guru Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Now it is so apt that Pundarik Vidyanidhi was the spiritual master of Gadadhar Pandit. As Pundarik Vidyanidhi is King Vrishabhanu, or Radharani's father in Krishna Leela. One day, Sri Gadadhar brought some food to Sri Gauranga, who in an overflow of emotions asked him, Gadadhar, where is that beautiful blackish boy who's dressed in yellow garments? Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? Tell me, Gadadhar, where is Krishna? After asking this, he began to shed tears. Nothing that Gadadhar said pacified Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gadadhar couldn't think of what to say. He finally respectfully suggested, he's in your heart, he's in your heart, calm down, calm down. There's an interesting parallel from Krishna Leela with this pastime. Similarly, when Radharani was asking the gopis, where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? The gopis pacified Radharani by saying, Krishna is in your heart. Krishna is in your heart. So coming back to this pastime, hearing this, Mahaprabhu began to tear at his chest with his nails. But Gadadhar quickly grabbed his hands. Mahaprabhu said to him, Gadadhar, let go of my hands. I cannot remain a moment more not seeing Krishna. Gadadhar pacified Mahaprabhu by saying, just try to be a little patient, my lord, and calm yourself. Krishna will soon come. Hearing this, Mahaprabhu became somewhat composed. Sachi Mata heard all this from a distance and then came running there, being very pleased with Gadadhar. She said, though he's just a boy, he is very intelligent. I'm always frightened to go before my son when he gets into these moods. But Gadadhar has very cleverly pacified him. Sachi Mata then requested Gadadhar, Gadadhar, you must please remain with Nimai always. If you stay with him, then I won't have to worry about anything. Gadadhar accepted that instruction. And interestingly, we see when Mahaprabhu began his pastimes in Navadvipa and in Puri, Gadadhar was his chief companion all the time. So, did that prediction ever come true about Brahma and Shiva worshipping Mahaprabhu? One day, after roaming throughout the town of Navadvip, Mahaprabhu came to a forest and seated himself there. Then he began to remember his pastimes in Vraja. Mukunda began to sing the kirtans in a very sweet voice in various ragas, while Gadadhar collected flowers from the forest and, after stringing them into a nice garland, placed it around Gauranga's neck, just like how Radharani used to decorate Sri Krishna. Some were singing beautiful songs, some were dancing in very graceful styles. Then Gaur taking Gadadhar by his left and Nitai by his right, seated himself on a dais at the base of one tree, while Lord Brahma began to offer Arti, as we see in this picture here. And as we sing every evening during Gaur Arti, Bosiya che Gaura Chan Ratna Simhasani Arati Korena Brahma Adi Devagane. As we see here, Brahma is performing Arti and Narahari is fanning the divine couple. So the prediction the Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva would worship him did indeed come true. When Nimai was to leave for Puri after his sannyas, Gadadhar put up a lot of arguments against this. Gadadhar told Nimai that one could practice any sort of spiritual sadhana even while staying at home. But Nimai told him that he would be better accepted by the masses if he became a sannyasi rather than a grihastha. Gadadhar finally gave in. After some time, Gadadhar accompanied some devotees from Navadvip to visit Mahaprabhu in Puri. He stayed on in Puri, not returning back to Navadvip. The other three of the Panchatattva, Nityananda, Advaita, and Srivas, returned to Navadvip, but Gadadhar stayed back in Puri. Knowing that the Lord would continue to reside in Puri, he decided to take what is called Kshetra Sannyas, meaning that he would limit himself to one particular place only, which means he would not travel anywhere else except stay in Puri. His motive was to stay in Puri so that he could be in constant association of the Lord. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's daily routine in Puri would involve taking his ocean bath, taking darshan at the temple, meeting Haridas Thakur, and in the afternoons, he would be at the Tota garden listening to Gadadhar speaking on Srimad Bhagavatam. As we know, it is ideal to hear Bhagavatam from a devotee. Who better to hear from than the topmost devotee, Srimati Radharani? It is mentioned that for Mahaprabhu and for Gadadhar, the pastimes of Dhruva and Prahlad were their favorites. which they read again and again with tears of love and devotion. One such day, while discussing Bhagavatam, Lord Chaitanya decided to bestow his special mercy on Gadadhar. He told Gadadhar to dig in a particular spot. After digging for some time, Gadadhar discovered the beautiful deity of Sri Gopinath. The deity was established in a temple in the Tota garden and came to be known as Tota Gopinath. This particular pastime is my favorite. As mentioned previously, Gadadhar took a vow of Kshetra Sannyas in Puri. That means, again, limiting oneself to one particular place only. He took this vow of Kshetra Sannyas so that he could perform uninterrupted seva to his beloved Tota Gopinath deities, and more importantly, that he could get uninterrupted association of Lord Gauranga. So now he met with a difficult challenge. Mahaprabhu started on his pilgrimage to Sri Vrindavan from Puri. Gadadhar said he would accompany him. Mahaprabhu immediately reminded him about his vow, about his Kshetra Sannyas. How can you come with me? You have taken Kshetra Sannyas. Gadadhar replied, My dear Lord, wherever you are, that is the most sacred place of this world. So Gadadhar Pandit demonstrates here the principle of surrendering everything for the sake of the Lord. So on one level, we give up adharma, like sinful activities, for the service of the Lord. But on the other level, giving up dharma, in this case his vow, for the service of the Lord is the real passing of the test. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, 1866. Sarva dharman parityajya, giving up all dharma. Mam ekam sharanam vraja. Gadadhar said, My dear Lord, I don't care about the vow of Kshetra Sannyas. I don't care about these vows. I don't care about these rules and regulations. He said that wherever Gauranga lives, that is his Kshetra. And Gauranga is his Tota Gopinath as well. Mahaprabhu, even though he was internally extremely pleased with the mood and devotion of Gadadhar Pandit, ordered him to stay back, as he wanted to maintain the principle of dharma for societies to follow in the future. After instructing Gadadhar to stay at Puri, the Lord departed. Now Gadadhar, when he saw the Lord departing, he fainted due to the sorrow of separation. Mahaprabhu told Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to take him back to Puri. Sarvabhauma consoled Gadadhar Pandit by saying, just see how the Lord has suppressed his heart to preserve your word. What special mercy you have got. So there is a connection with Tota Gopinath and Gadadhar Pandit. There's a beautiful pastime which I want to share now. So after Lord Chaitanya's departure from this world, Gadadhar Pandit aged very quickly in separation from his beloved Nimai. When Gadadhar Pandit was trying to render service to Tota Gopinath, he couldn't even reach to put the garland around the neck of the deity. To reciprocate with his loving service, the deity actually bent down to accept the flower garlands of his beloved Gadadhar, who is none other than his beloved Srimati Radharani. So to this day, the deity of Tota Gopinath in the temple remains in kneeling position to accept the eternal service of his beloved Gadadhar. A slight crack, which is still to be found near the right knee of Sri Gopinath Ji, is the spot where Mahaprabhu is said to have entered the deity. According to some authorities, a short time after Lord Chaitanya's disappearance, Srila Gadadhar Pandit also joined his eternal pastimes by entering his beloved deity of Tota Gopinath. That is why you will not find the Samadhi of Gadadhar Pandit. However, his tooth Samadhi or Danta Samadhi stands near the Vamsi Gopal temple in Vrindavan. So Gadadhar Pandit worshipped Tota Gopinath for approximately, it was about 500 years ago. But we are all fortunate, dear devotees, to witness during our time Pankajangri Prabhu, a pure devotee of the Lord, who had the same absorption as Gadadhar Pandit. He rendered selfless service to Lord Nrsimhadev for approximately 50 years. 50 years. Pankajangri Prabhu was managing the Pujari department for many years. He was not only a Pujari, but he was a manager, speaker, and educator. It is rare indeed to find personalities like Jananivas Prabhu and Pankajangri Prabhu with a combination of their dedication, humility, knowledge, kindness, and so on. As Srila Prabhupada himself said in 1976, these two brothers, Pankajangri and Jananivas, there is no comparison. As I'm very attached personally to Sridham Mayapur, I always used to look forward to Pankajangri Prabhu perform Mangal Aarti in the mornings to his beloved Narsimhadev. I will miss seeing that, Prabhu. Also, one interesting pastime in when Pankajangri Prabhu was here in New York in 2009, Namras Prabhu also shared this, and I want to share it with all of you. So while he was walking on the streets, this is Pankajangri Prabhu walking on the streets of New York, one random New Yorker asked him, "Who are you? Why are you so happy? Why are you glowing like this?" And Pankajangri Prabhu explained to him a little about Krishna consciousness, and this is the picture that we took at that time. And the man immediately said, "Can I hug you?" And they both embraced each other. What mercy, what special mercy. I just want to end with a couple more slides. So one thing I want to mention is that hard work leads to heart work. So hard work in our Krishna consciousness ultimately leads to heart work by purifying us. So deity service specifically involves both hard work and heart work. How? Because it is a combination of being practical and also being transcendental. It involves following the rules and regulations and also having the emotions, following one's heart while performing the seva. So Srila Prabhupada, one of Srila Prabhupada's most commonly used phrases is devotional service. So if you think about it, devotion is heart work and service involves hard work. In fact, every aspect of devotional service requires both of these things. It requires hard work and heart work. For example, cooking. Cooking requires planning, hard work, and also putting our emotions, like we're cooking in Radharani's kitchen, we're cooking for Radharani, and so on. Even chanting involves hard work and heart work, and so on. So I just want to mention 3 instructions that Mahaprabhu gave to Gadadhar Pandit. The first instruction was to be the authoritative teacher of Srimad Bhagavatam. The second instruction is to give formal initiation on behalf of Mahaprabhu to the true seekers on the path of pure Rajabhakti. And finally, to worship the deity of Sri Tota Gopinath. So finally, I just want to summarize by talking about the aspects of Panchatattva. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu represents Nam Kirtan. Gadadhar Pandit, as we heard today, exemplifies Bhagavat Shravan and deity worship. Srivas Thakur exemplifies Vaishnav Seva. Lord Nityananda exemplifies outreach. And finally, Advaita Acharya exemplifies Vaishnav etiquette through prayers and culture. I want to share a picture of Gadadhar Pandit's own handwriting. This is actually Gadadhar Pandit's own handwriting that was saved. And I'll stop here. Thank you all very much. And thank you, Gausharan Prabhu, for giving me this opportunity. Hare Krishna. Srila Gadadhar Pandit Prabhu ki jai. Srila Pankajangri Prabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. If there are any comments, please feel free to ask. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Gaura Kumar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Andrea.
And Paul is here too.
Paul, Hare Krishna, Paul.
Thank you so much for that class. It was enlightening as always, and also you help take these. First off, you continue to give me a taste for wanting to start diligently reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Just every time that you speak and that we speak, I'm like, okay, I really do want to read it, because the way that you talk about the Leelas, it's so enlightening, and just gives me like a taste for it that I just want more. And then I had heard you say the hard work leads to the heart work, and I really appreciate that saying. But I love how you explained it in the terms of devotional service and explain it that way. And then the journey of a devotee, I would love to see that as just like an image that we could share on social media just on its own, because I never thought of how devotees, exemplified the Panchatattva in that way. And even just a simple idea of that someone actually, it started with someone praying for us. It just really blew my mind, but just seeing that connection was just really beautiful. And I would just love to kind of see that all together. So I really don't have any questions at this time, because there's just so much that I want to take in. It's more just appreciation and just a request if we could get that journey of devotee so we could share on social media. That would be amazing. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Andrea, for your words of encouragement. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Gaura Kumar Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams.
Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you so much again for such a wonderful session. I always look forward to your lessons and sessions, because like Andrea, I feel like I just learn such new things and hear like perspectives or presentations for the very first time. I've never heard them from anyone else. And I personally think I'd like to hear a pretty good amount. So I feel like what I learn from your sessions is always refreshing, and it's kind of like mind joggling. It's interesting presentations. And as Andrea mentioned, the journey of a devotee, or even the unique aspects of Gaura Lila. I'd never heard that before. So that was actually really interesting analysis. But even from just the heart-touching aspects of your presentation, I personally had never seen or heard of, for example, Gadadhar Deities. You're right, it was always God Nitai, and just even letting us, introducing those deities to us and understanding why we don't worship them and the qualifications. And I appreciate even having darshan of Tota Gopinath, which I personally had also not seen or heard of before, sitting Krishna. And I feel like you're always bringing in such unique like images and slides and again perspectives, even having Gadadhar Pandit's handwriting, like that is so cool, and presenting that to us. So I feel like I could go on and I'd be reciting your whole presentation, but I appreciate again just the lessons that you bring in, for example, the hard work versus heart work, and even what the Panchatattva really represents. So thank you so much. It's always very enlightening and very educational. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Andrea, for your words of encouragement. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay.
Thank you, Gaura Kumar, for taking us all to Puri as well as Navadvip through your presentation. Thank you very much as Athena and Andrea said, it was wonderful, both information as well as points to take. Adipurush Prabhu, would you like to add anything?
I'm very moved to hear about the idea that somebody prayed for us. I was thinking about that recently, and at many places in my life, there were people who actually came to me and said, "I'm praying for you." And the first few times that happened, I was like, "What? What are they? You're praying for me?" I couldn't really relate to it, but as I look back, I see that there were people of faith. And they understood that I was not, and they cared enough to appeal to the Lord on my behalf. And we are called to do that for others. That's the point. Krishna consciousness means we have to give it to get it. So And we have many guests staying with us every day for the last 22 years in the guest program. And people come from everywhere and from all different kinds of strata and levels of realization and faith and no faith. And we pray for each one. When they come in, we leave them in the breakfast area. We go down to Srila Prabhupada's Vyasasana downstairs, put our head on the floor, pray to Prabhupada, Krishna, Lord, please, Prabhupada, please show us how to see this person, how to speak to this person, how to care for this person on your behalf. Not to change them, but to change us so that actually we can be your instrument in reaching out to them. And miracles happen. People you never would even consider. Even just yesterday, we had 2 guests who came in. Immediately, they came over for prasad distribution. And we had some really nice talks with them at the park and in the car. So we've seen it happen. It works. Krishna hears that prayer, and Krishna makes a bridge, opens a door, so that and everybody who comes in our purview, Prabhupada said, tell everyone you meet, tell everyone. It's quite a challenge that everyone we meet, we can pray for them, and then allow Krishna to work through us to offer them access to devotional service. We've been given a great treasure.
Yeah,
So
thank you,
let's
Adi
pray.
Purush Prabhu.
Glory to
Actually,
Prabhupada.
you are one person like Pankajangri Prabhu, consistently, year after year, decade after decade, doing this hard work and hard work of serving so many homeless people all across New York. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for this consistent seva. It's very, very inspiring for us.
Well, glory to Prabhupada.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. So, Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki
Gaura
jai.
Kumar Prabhu ki jai.
Love you, Gaura Kumar Prabhu. Hare Krishna, glory to Prabhupada.